Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Jack.
And I'm Elena.
Today we're going to explore why we compare ourselves to others.
And how to break free from this habit.
It's natural to look around and see how we measure up.
But is it truly helpful?
Let's find out.
Oh.
So let's unpack this idea of comparison.
When we compare ourselves, it's often upward or downward.
Upward being, we compare ourselves to those we perceive as better than us
Yes.
in some way.
For example, imagine you're at the gym
Uh-huh.
and you see someone lifting heavier weights.
It's easy to feel discouraged in that scenario
Yeah, you might think, I'll never reach that level.
and lose motivation.
Yeah.
Upward comparisons, even though they can sometimes inspire us, often lead to feeling inadequate.
Now, downward comparison is when we compare ourselves to those we see as less skilled.
So this is more about boosting our ego.
It can be.
Okay.
Let's say you see someone struggling with a task you find easy.
We might feel a sense of superiority.
And while that might feel good temporarily, it doesn't actually help us grow or improve.
It's like a shortcut to feeling good without actually putting in the effort
That's a great way to put it.
to improve.
And here's the thing about trying to stop comparing ourselves.
We often go about it the wrong way.
We might try to rationalize it away.
Yeah, telling ourselves, that's not a fair comparison.
But that doesn't really address the root of the issue.
It doesn't, because it doesn't explain why our brain chose that person
Right.
for comparison.
Exactly.
So why do we gravitate towards certain people for comparison?
Our brain tends to categorize people into leagues.
Leagues.
We naturally compare ourselves to those we perceive as being in a similar league.
So I wouldn't compare my athletic abilities to an Olympic athlete.
But you might compare yourself to someone at a similar fitness level.
Got it.
It's like comparing apples to apples.
However, social media complicates things.
That's true.
Social media gives us access to the carefully curated lives of celebrities.
Yes, and influencers.
Yeah, it creates a skewed perception of reality.
We're constantly bombarded with highlight reels.
It's easy to forget that everyone experiences challenges.
And setbacks.
We're only seeing a sliver of their lives.
Isn't the full picture.
And because social media makes everyone seem accessible.
It tricks our brain into thinking these individuals are in our league.
Even though in reality, we're comparing ourselves to a carefully constructed online persona.
This can be incredibly damaging to our self-esteem.
So how do we navigate this world of constant comparison?
The key is to understand why your brain chose that particular person
Okay,
to compare yourself to.
we need to assess if it's a fair comparison.
Are you comparing all of your attributes to all of theirs? Or are you cherry-picking their best qualities?
And comparing them to our shortcomings.
Exact.
It's like creating a Frankenstein's monster of perfection.
And then feeling inadequate because we don't measure up.
Yeah, we rarely compare all aspects of our lives,
We tend to focus on areas where we feel insecure.
which only amplifies our negative feelings.
Exactly. And this is where we need to shift our focus
From external validation.
to our own values.
Instead of asking, am I as good as them?
We should be asking, am I living in accordance with my values?
That's a powerful shift in perspective.
Because true self-worth comes from aligning our actions with our beliefs.
For example, instead of comparing your fitness level to someone else's,
Okay.
we can ask ourselves, do I value health and well-being?
Am I making choices that support that value?
This puts us back in control.
It empowers us to focus on our own journey, not someone else's.
And it helps us break free from the trap of seeking external validation.
That's such an important point.
Because when our sense of self-worth is dependent on external factors,
We give away our power,
our happiness becomes contingent on other people's opinions and achievements.
which is ultimately an unfulfilling and unsustainable way to live.
Oh.
Instead, we can cultivate self-worth from the inside out.
By living authentically and pursuing goals that are meaningful to us.
And this leads us to the concept of scarcity versus abundance.
Comparison often stems from a scarcity mindset.
The belief that there isn't enough to go around.
So we constantly feel the need to compete.
For resources, recognition, or success.
This creates a sense of anxiety,
And fear.
like we're all fighting for a limited piece of the pie.
But who benefits from this scarcity mindset?
That's a great question.
Well, think about the media and advertising industries.
They thrive on making us feel inadequate.
They constantly bombard us with messages that we need to buy more, be more, do more to be happy.
It's a never-ending cycle of consumerism fueled by our insecurities.
And comparison plays a significant role in perpetuating this cycle.
Because when we're focused on what we lack,
We're more susceptible to these external messages.
we become easy targets for marketing ploys designed to exploit our insecurities.
But there's another way to approach life.
The abundance mindset.
It's the belief that there's enough for everyone.
Enough success, enough happiness and of opportunities,
It's a shift from competition to cooperation.
from fear to generosity.
When we adopt an abundance mindset,
We can celebrate the successes of others.
without feeling threatened,
We can support each other's journeys instead of viewing everyone as competition.
it's a much more fulfilling and joyful way to live.
And it's a powerful antidote to the toxic effects of comparison.
Because when we believe there's enough for everyone,
We can focus on our own growth and contributions without feeling the need to constantly measure ourselves against others.
it's about recognizing our own unique value.
And appreciating the diversity and abundance of human potential.
It's a beautiful vision, isn't it?
It is.
And it's a vision we can all work towards creating.
By shifting our mindsets
And choosing to see the world through a lens of abundance.
and possibility.
I think this is a great point to transition into part 2.
I agree. We've laid a solid foundation for understanding the dynamics of comparison.
And in part 2, we'll dive deeper into practical strategies for breaking free from this habit.
I'm looking forward to exploring those strategies with you.
Me too.
We'll be back soon with part 2. See you then.
Welcome back.
So we've talked about how comparison stems from a scarcity mindset.
And how media and advertising exploit our insecurities.
How do we actually start to change those ingrained habits?
It takes effort
Yeah.
and practice,
Sure.
but it's definitely possible.
Where do we even begin?
It starts with awareness.
Okay, so I'm scrolling through social media and I see someone
Yeah.
on an amazing vacation.
And you start to feel a pang of jealousy.
What do I do in that moment?
Pause
Okay.
and ask yourself some key questions.
Like what?
Why did my brain choose this person to compare myself to?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Is usually someone I perceive as being better than me in some way.
Right. But is it a fair comparison?
Probably not. I'm comparing my everyday life to their highlight reel.
Exactly. Everyone's life has ups and downs.
We only see the carefully curated snippets people choose to share.
So it's not a realistic representation of their life, just a snapshot.
It's like comparing apples to oranges.
A good analogy.
Okay.
So by asking yourself these questions, you can start to challenge those automatic comparisons.
It's about bringing awareness to those subconscious thoughts.
And reminding yourself that social media is not a reflection of reality.
It's a curated illusion.
So once we've caught ourselves making a comparison, how do we shift our mindset?
Well, we talked about focusing on our values.
Yes, instead of asking, am I as good as them? We can ask ourselves, am I living in alignment with my values?
This question helps us reconnect with our own internal compass,
It helps us define success on our own terms.
rather than basing it on external measures of worth.
And that's incredibly empowering.
It is, and it leads to a much more fulfilling and authentic life.
It's about living in integrity with ourselves.
Another key strategy is to practice gratitude.
Gratitude.
How does that help with comparison?
When we focus on what we're grateful for, it shifts our attention away from what we lack.
It helps us appreciate the good in our lives.
And that naturally reduces feelings of envy and inadequacy.
Gratitude is a powerful tool for cultivating an abundance mindset.
It reminds us that we already have so much to be thankful for.
And it opens our hearts to the possibility of even more good things coming our way.
You mentioned keeping a gratitude journal earlier.
You can simply write down a few things you're grateful for each day.
It could be something as simple as a sunny day or a delicious meal.
Or something more significant like a loving relationship or a fulfilling career.
The point is to train your brain to focus on the positive aspects of your life.
And to appreciate the abundance that already surrounds you.
And as you practice gratitude, you'll likely find that comparison loses its grip on you.
Because you'll be too busy appreciating what you have to worry about what others have.
It's about shifting from a mindset of lack to one of abundance.
And that's a powerful shift.
It really is, and it can have a profound impact on your overall happiness and well-being.
So awareness, focusing on our values, and practicing gratitude are 3 key strategies for overcoming comparison.
They are, and another crucial element is self-acceptance.
This one seems especially challenging.
It can be, but it's essential for breaking free from the trap of comparison.
Because if we don't accept ourselves, we'll always be searching for external validation.
We'll always be trying to measure up to someone else's standards.
And that's a recipe for unhappiness.
Yeah.
So how do we cultivate more self-acceptance?
Well, it starts with recognizing that we are all perfectly imperfect.
We all have flaws and weaknesses.
And that's okay. It's what makes us human.
It's what makes us unique.
And instead of trying to hide or deny our imperfections, we can embrace them as part of who we are.
This doesn't mean we shouldn't strive to improve ourselves.
Of course not. But it means accepting ourselves as we are right now with all our strengths and weaknesses.
And recognizing that we are worthy of love and belonging, just as we are.
That's such a crucial point.
It's about shifting from self-criticism to self-compassion.
Treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a good friend.
Because we're often much harder on ourselves than we would ever be on anyone else.
And that inner critic can be incredibly destructive.
It can sabotage our efforts and keep us stuck in a cycle of self-doubt and comparison.
So it's essential to cultivate a more compassionate inner voice, one that encourages us and supports us on our journey.
Rather than constantly putting us down.
And this ties back to the idea of focusing on our strengths.
Everyone has strengths. It's important to acknowledge and celebrate them.
It can be helpful to actually write down a list of your strengths and accomplishments.
And to remind yourself of them regularly.
It's like creating a personal pep talk.
And when you start focusing on the positive aspects of yourself, you naturally feel more confident and self-assured.
And less inclined to compare yourself to others because you recognize your own inherent worth.
It's about shifting your internal dialogue from self-criticism to self-appreciation.
And that's a powerful shift.
It is, and it can have a ripple effect throughout your entire life.
Because when you feel good about yourself, you're more likely to pursue your goals with confidence.
You're more likely to attract positive relationships.
And you're more likely to experience genuine happiness and fulfillment.
I think this is a good place to pause.
Yes, we've covered a lot of ground in this segment.
We'll be back soon with the final part of this deep dive on comparison. Welcome back to the final part of our exploration of comparison.
In this last section, I want to leave you with some tools to help you manage those inevitable moments when comparison creeps back in.
Because let's be real, it's gonna happen.
It's natural.
Yeah, we can't expect to eradicate it completely.
But we can learn to manage it more effectively.
So what do we do when we find ourselves spiraling
Uh-huh.
into those negative thought patterns?
One technique I find helpful is mindfulness.
Mindfulness, can you elaborate on that?
Mindfulness is about bringing your attention to the present moment.
So instead of dwelling on the past or worrying about the future,
We focus on what's happening right now.
how does that help with comparison?
When we're fully present, we're less likely to get caught up in those mental comparisons.
Because our attention is on our immediate experience
Exactly. We're not ruminating on what others have.
or what we lack.
We're simply observing our thoughts and feelings without judgment.
And that can be incredibly liberating
It takes us out of that cycle of negative self-talk.
and allows us to see things more clearly
So mindfulness is about being present,
and non-judgmental.
observing our thoughts and emotions without getting swept away by them,
This helps create space for more positive.
and empowering thoughts.
Another technique that can be helpful is visualization.
Visualization.
Yeah, I've heard of that,
Uh-huh.
but I'm not sure how it applies here.
Visualization is about creating a mental image
Okay.
of what you want to achieve or experience.
So if I'm struggling with comparison,
You can visualize yourself feeling confident and self-assured.
you can imagine yourself interacting with others from a place of self-acceptance.
And as you repeatedly visualize these positive scenarios,
Your brain starts to believe they're possible,
it creates new neural pathways.
that support those positive beliefs,
It's like training your mind to focus on what you want.
rather than dwelling on what you don't have
And this can have a powerful impact on your behavior.
and your overall well-being.
Another important aspect of overcoming comparison is surrounding yourself with supportive people
People who lift you up,
and encourage you.
rather than those who constantly compare and compete.
Because our social circle can have a significant influence on our mindset.
If you're constantly surrounded by people who are focused on status and material possessions,
It's easy to get caught up in that same mentality.
but if you surround yourself with people who value authenticity and kindness,
It will be easier to stay true to your own values.
so it's about being mindful of who you spend your time with.
Choosing to connect with people who inspire and support you.
And don't be afraid to set boundaries with those who bring you down.
Protecting your mental and emotional well-being is essential.
And remember, comparison often stems from a deeper sense of insecurity.
So it's important to address those underlying insecurities.
This might involve exploring your past experiences
Identifying any negative beliefs you hold about yourself.
and working to challenge and reframe those beliefs.
This is where therapy or coaching can be incredibly helpful.
Having a supportive and objective guide can help you navigate those deeper emotional layers.
And develop a stronger sense of self-worth.
And as you build your self-worth from the inside out,
Comparison will naturally have less power over you.
because you'll recognize that your value doesn't come from external validation.
It comes from who you are at your core.
That's a powerful realization.
It frees you to live authentically and to pursue your goals with confidence and joy.
As we wrap up this deep dive into comparison,
I want to leave you with one final thought.
I'm listening.
If comparison is fueled by insecurity, what would it look like to build your sense of self-worth from the inside out?
How would your life be different if you truly believed there was enough for everyone?
These are powerful questions for all of us to ponder.
They invite us to examine our beliefs and to consider a new way of being in the world, a way that is rooted in self-acceptance and a belief in our own inherent worth.
Thank you for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure exploring this topic with you. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.